What is up, my veggies? My name is VeggieTales Raymond, and welcome back to another movie review. And today we are reviewing the new movie, Leprechaun Returns. The latest installment in the Leprechaun series, which is the 8th movie in this series, which is crazy because who knew this series would get 8 films, which is nuts, especially after the last one we got, Leprechaun Origins. I'm surprised this one even exists because of how bad Leprechaun Origins was. But nonetheless, let's talk about this movie. Where do I start with this movie? I got a lot I want to say about this movie. And when I say where do I start, I don't mean that negatively. So, when I first heard about this movie, I was so glad we were getting back to the Leprechaun we know and love. Well, not exactly that Leprechaun, but back to an actual Leprechaun and not this demon-like creature. I am so glad we got back to an actual Leprechaun. Like a legit actual Leprechaun. I am so glad that's what this is. It's not some stupid monster movie with the dumb... It's going back to the Leprechaun style we know. It's not the same actor, but I feel like we got an alright replacement. Because this guy's pretty good for what he's done. Now, am I saying this is a good movie? Well, I'll get there. So, first thing I'm going to say about this movie is... First thing I'll say about this movie is... Gosh, it's all over the place. Like, this is a crazy, wild movie. One thing, so, this movie is just like the latest Halloween that came out, which I will get around to reviewing that. Don't get angry, it hasn't happened yet. I do want to review all the other Halloweens before I review that. But this takes place... This basically throws Leprechaun 2, Leprechaun 3, Leprechaun 4 in space, Leprechaun in the Hood, Leprechaun Back to the Hood, and Leprechaun Origins out the window. It's like, forget all those. This is a direct sequel to the first movie. Now, you could argue possibly the other ones still happen, but who knows? I don't think so because this takes place in modern day, because there are smartphones and stuff, so... One thing I really like, we did get a returning character, which was Ozzy, played by the same actor. Don't know the actor's name, but was played by the same guy, which I'm really glad to see this character return, which really, really made me happy. Really made it feel like a genuine sequel. We went back to the house where it was in the original, and it's so good to see that area return and when we first see the Leprechaun in this movie, and the way he comes back is very strange, but also very fitting. And at first you think, oh, no one can replace the original Leprechaun. I keep on forgetting his name. I know the actor, I just keep on forgetting his name. But yeah, but the movie, but what happens, how the way he comes back is so strange, and I feel like it's a nod to Leprechaun 2. If you guys, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of a nod to Leprechaun 2. And let's get into a bit of the negative part. The characters in this movie. I can't tell you I remember any of their names. All I remember is the main girl's name, and her name was Lila. That's all I can remember. And with movies like this, I'm very forgettable. I forget names very easily. But I remembered her because she was like the only likable character besides Ozzy in this movie. Yeah. And the Leprechaun, of course. Now the Leprechaun, with his new look. Well, let me talk about these characters first. So the new characters, these characters are they were giving some very strange dialogue at some points, and some performances seem very phoned in or just like not that great, but they're not gosh awful. They're just they're just they're not like, oh gosh, turn the movie off. They're not that bad, but I wouldn't really say they're fantastic. Except for the main character and Ozzy, obviously. Those two are my favorite acting. And the Leprechaun was pretty good as well. But let me get back to talking about the characters. Most of them are very forgettable. Especially, we got these two guy characters are very, very forgettable. We got this one girl who's kind of the party girl, and she doesn't have really any character development or a character at all, except for, I only care about myself, and blah, 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 blah. And there's this other girl that's in the movie that also doesn't have very much character, but also has more character than this girl. But all the characters are just all over the place and just not the best characters when it comes to a movie, to be honest, because it's not the best not I don't mean not the best casting, but these characters aren't very what's the word great at fulfilling their roles in this film. It just feels some performances feel very phoned in. I'm not gonna lie, they do feel very phoned in, but at the same time, some of the ones aren't gosh dang awful. They actually work, and it's actually, but some of them just are completely awful at some points. Not completely awful. I'm jumping ahead of myself. It's okay, but let's talk about the Leprechaun himself. Is the Leprechaun a good replacement? He's good. I'm not gonna lie. He is the bread and butter of this movie, obviously. By the way, I'm outside, so I'm going to go ahead and say that. But he is the bread and butter of this movie. He's a laugh. He's not the worst. Definitely the original actor is better. I really do like the design. He looks pretty different, but also pretty similar. But very different. And there is kind of a comment like that where he sees his reflection and he's like, ooh, I look different. It's kind of like, ooh, I look different. And like, it was like, I've changed a lot in 25 years, which is really, really cool. And I really liked that they pointed that out and they gave that, I liked that. The movie, but, now let's get into the few weirder parts of the movie. There's one part, like, right before we get to past a little bit after we get past the hour mark, it's very, I don't know how I could say it, very dumb. Like, I'm sitting there while watching this movie and I'm like, who asked for that? Like, why does this make sense? And I'm second guessing myself throughout this entire scene, and then a part of the movie is like, okay, so only this is how. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't seen the movie, you're like, what is VeggieTales Raymond talking about right now? What is wrong with him? We already know he's crazy. He's crazy. We already know that. But the movie, it's not awful. And when the original movies where there was like no continuity at all, we're like, oh no, he dies from this. Oh no, he dies from this. He can die from this happening. He'll die if this happens. Or like, oh, forget the 4-leaf clover, or he's gonna die by iron. This movie brings all that back. Man, there's iron, there's the 4-leaf clover, there's even an explosion. He explodes. I shouldn't have said that. It's kind of a spoiler, but he explodes and everything. It brings back a lot of those things. And I really do like, because I'm kind of going to quote Silver Quill for a second. Continuity. I love continuity. When there's continuity in a film where it needs to be, and it's so obvious that this movie does fix a lot of the problems the Leprechaun movies have. So I actually rather enjoy the movie itself. The ending, there's a scene at the end where this definitely opens up a spot for another movie in the franchise, in my opinion. Even though if they didn't want to, they could leave it here and I would not be angry. It doesn't seem like they'd have to, but it does seem like they may have, like, we might be able to make another movie, might be able to throw another one in here. Who knows? But it does seem like they wanted to leave a spot open for another film. And I'd be completely okay with that because this brought the Leprechaun back, in my opinion. After Leprechaun Origins, that movie was awful. I'm not going to lie, that was not a good movie. But with this one, it brought it back and brought a good positive spin on the film. And I really enjoyed that. Like, this is something that this movie needed. This movie needed this. This franchise, if they were going to continue the franchise, this is what the franchise needed. Now, as of right now of recording this, you can only buy or rent this movie on digital, but it will later air on Sci-Fi in March. So if you want to wait till then to see it or rent it or whatever, I direct whichever one you want to do. If you like the original Leprechaun movie, you will like this one, in my opinion. If you think the Leprechaun movies are the dumbest thing on the planet, which they kind of are pretty dumb, but they work, and I really enjoy them, and they're a very guilty pleasure of mine. I don't think they're all bad, and it's still a pretty darn good film, and I would say this movie is worth a watch. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm not going to say it's bad because I don't think... Don't get me wrong. There's some parts where I'm like, this character's being stupid. This should not be happening. What is wrong with you? What are you doing? Don't do that. What is wrong with you? Like, there was one really dumb moment that I remember when one of the characters dies. I'm not going to say what it is, but if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's a very, very, very dumb thing that this character does. And it just really stuck with me after this scene. But then there's this whole thing where, like, the character's, like, trying to, like, all bad butt, and they're like, no, I kind of need to go, I don't know what I'm doing. I like that. It kind of, like, contradicts themselves in, like, in a funny way, and I do like that. And I do like the way that the Leprechaun is, quote-unquote, defeated. And like I said, this does leave a spot open for sequel. So I think I do, but the movie, I don't care what any other critics say. I did not hate this movie. I did not think this movie was bad. I thought this movie was pretty entertaining, and I would not mind giving it another watch. It's actually, I do want to get a copy of this when it gets a physical DVD release. Or Blu-ray, because I already have the first 7 movies. I want to get this one because I really enjoyed this movie. Like, it's that enjoyable. I would watch this constantly. I would watch this again. I'd want to break down and try to find some Easter eggs that I did not see. There was definitely a bunch of references to the other movies in this movie. And that's something I really love. And the movie is just overall, I enjoyed it. I know it's like this movie is nothing without its flaws. It has some major flaws. But the major flaws in this movie, don't ruin it for me. I was like, there's one scene where I'm like, why? But besides that one scene, and maybe one or two other sprinkled here, especially something that happens with the Leprechaun towards the end. That was like, I was like, huh? But that's really all I have to say for this video. I will give this a solid, just because it's a major improvement, and I really do actually enjoy this movie, and it's not really that bad. I will go ahead and give it a 4 out of, just getting on that 4. Since I've said so many positives about it, I'll give it a 4 out of 5 rating. And I hope I can find a place for it on the top 12 list of... So, but is this movie 2018 or is it 2019? I don't know whether to count it because it airs on Sci-Fi. I don't know if I should count this. I'm going to do research and see what they consider this movie's release date. So I don't know if I'm going to consider this a 2018 release or a 2019 release. So... we'll see. But guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please tap the like button down below, subscribe, leave me a comment, and link to all my social medias will be linked down in the description below. And do not forget to hit the notification button to be notified when I upload videos. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!